Did you know that your birth chart holds the key to increasing your finances? In fact, it wasn't until I started aligning myself with the energy of my birth chart that I was able to have enough money not just to survive, but to thrive. And that's what I want to help all of you do today in this video. We're going to be covering the second house in astrology in great detail and in great depth. This is probably the most comprehensive video you're going to find on this topic for free on YouTube, because this should probably be a paid webinar. I'm giving you a lot of information and a lot of detail, so pour yourself a cup of tea, sit back, grab a notepad, and let's jump into this. And so for this video, we're going to be covering the general meaning of the second house. We're also going to be covering the energy of the second house by rising sign. And so for the second part of the video, you're not going to need to know anything beyond your rising sign to benefit from this information. From there, we're going to start talking about the second house ruler, so the planetary ruler of your second house based on whole sign houses. You can yell at me in the comment section if you want about house rulerships and Placidus and this and that, but when it comes to actually utilizing this information with house rulerships in a very objective, very accurate way that's going to help you to actually thrive financially, I have personally found that whole sign houses works best. So you're also going to want to pull up your birth chart using whole sign houses. If you don't know how to do that, make sure you download my Astrology 101 PDF guide down in the link in the description below. You're also going to need this a little bit later on in the video if you don't know very much about your placements when it comes to the different planets and the houses in your birth chart. Again, especially using whole sign houses. This is a free download. Again, my Astrology 101 PDF guide. You're going to need this for this video if you don't already have it. So from there, we're going to go into the ruler of the second house and what it represents and how you can harness the energy best based on where it's placed in your personal birth chart. The only thing we won't be covering in depth in this video are planets in the second house, but with the Astrology 101 PDF guide that you just downloaded, you can learn about the significations of the planets that are placed in your second house and start to tie in those topics, those themes, those energies into the way that you go about utilizing and earning money. And so that's what we're going to be doing in this video. So let's jump right into the second house and what it represents astrologically. And so the second house in the birth chart represents your money and material possessions. That is the place to start when it comes to evaluating finances for somebody in the birth chart. It doesn't just represent the way that you earn money, it also represents the way that you save and spend your money. A lot of people, especially in modern Western astrology, talk about the second house representing your values. That can only really be the case when it comes to what you value on a material level, when it comes to what you value in terms of spending your money and utilizing your resources or saving your money. It shows your financial and material values only. It also shows, again, the way that you can best save your money, the way that you can best go about earning money sometimes can show up in that second house very strongly. And it shows you the best things to invest in on a tangible level when it comes to material things, and also where you actually want to spend your money, what you're saving your money for, where you feel most comfortable utilizing your resources or spending more freely. It can also show if you tend to be very generous with your resources or if you tend to be a little bit more stingy or cheap. It shows you your mindset that you gain from early childhood about money, material possessions, and finances as well, which can be super important because a lot of what goes on with the choices that you make financially can be psychological, and these psychological issues, these psychological things that are engraved, these ideas, these beliefs about money that are ingrained in our psyche, these can be very inhibitory toward our financial wealth, our financial freedom, toward gaining resources and saving resources. And so you want to make sure that you understand that as well, which again, we're going to cover really in depth as we move through this video. Now, the second house isn't the only thing you want to look at in the birth chart if you're evaluating somebody's financial situation overall. It's just the main thing and the starting point. And so, if you want to get a more holistic overview of the energy of money in the birth chart, if you want to help yourself and help others to optimize everything in their life, not just their finances, not just their career, but everything, make sure that you check out the Cosmic Academy of Astrology. The Cosmic Academy of Astrology is the place for anyone who wants to learn to give readings and make predictions with confidence. You don't have to want to be a professional to join in, but if you do want to be a professional, we have you covered there as well. This course is 4 levels where we cover all of the basics that you need to interpret the natal chart, understand somebody's financial situation, their love life, their career, everything. But also it gives the building blocks that you need to make predictions using things like house rulerships, which is what we're covering today, transits, solar returns, lunar returns, annual perfections, and secondary progressions, and more. Right now, the Cosmic Academy of Astrology for the month of June in 2023, if that's when you're watching this, is 20% off, and you'll get access to 3 bonus courses on astrocartography, electional astrology, and dealing with difficult energy in the birth chart, including difficult financial energy. And so all of that is included along with bonus access, lifetime access to our Beginner's Astrology Bootcamp, and you get your certificate of completion fee waived if you enroll before June 30th of 2023. And so there's more information about that down below. Definitely check it out if you're somebody who's interested in learning to give readings, or if you just want to really understand your own birth chart in great detail for yourself and become your own astrologer. This is the place to cut through the chaos, clear up confusion, and learn to give meaningful, accurate astrology readings with confidence. It's a very unique program where you get a lot of support, a lot of community connection with like-minded astrology lovers just like you, and there's just a lot. So you're going to have to check it out down below. But anyway, let's get into the second house energy by rising sign. Again, pull up that whole sign house birth chart and let's get started. For Aries rising, your second house is occupied by Taurus. And so Taurus is a fixed earth sign that's very grounded and very connected to the material realm. This is a good energy to have in your second house for building wealth very slowly, very methodically, and building wealth in a way that is long lasting. This is also an energy of saving money and saving resources in a very, I don't want to call it like it's not a stingy way, but it's kind of like you're less willing to part with your money unless the thing that you're purchasing has great value. You want the thing that you are buying to be the best of its kind. You want really great craftsmanship. You want things that are really well made using the best material. You want things that are going to last a really long time. And you're willing to shell out extra just to make sure that that's the case. So sometimes you might make purchases that seem quite luxurious, but really you're looking for something that is the best quality that you know you're going to enjoy and love for years and years to come. This is a great energy for saving and putting money away very slowly every single week, every single paycheck, making sure that you're taking a percentage of your income and being very consistent with it and putting it away in your savings account, in your 401k, in your other investments. You can be really good with your resources in this way. However, you are less likely to take risks when it comes to finances, even though you are in Aries rising, which can be more of a risk taker in other areas. And so you might miss out on financial opportunities, especially opportunities to earn money in ways that are less comfortable, less tried and true. And so your challenge is to branch out and to try new things when it comes to the way that you earn money and the way that you spend and save your resources or invest your resources even. Having Taurus in the second house indicates that Venus is the ruler of your second house. Venus is a sign that has to do with money, finances, material possessions, and beauty. And so this is a great energy to have as the ruler of the second house. With Venus as the ruler and Taurus occupying the second house, this can indicate that you can make money through things that are very tangible and very material, through things that are aesthetically pleasing, through working in something like finance, because that is a very Taurus field. And so all of these things can be helpful for you when it comes to acquiring wealth. And definitely keep that information about Venus being the ruler of your second house in your back pocket for the second part of this video, when we'll talk about the ruler of your second house in all of the different positions and houses in the birth chart. For Taurus rising, actually, Gemini is going to be occupying your second house in whole sign houses. This indicates that even though you're a Taurus and you tend to stick to things that are a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more tried and true, you might spread yourself a little bit too thin financially. You want to try everything. You want to have a little bit of everything. You want to have your money in a lot of different places. And that's completely okay. You definitely don't want to have all of your money in one savings account. That's not necessarily the best financial strategy. So for you, because you are a Gemini and because this is a mutable air sign, putting your money in a variety of different investments and in a variety of different places and spreading it out into things that you find really interesting and really exciting, as well as things that are a little bit more stable, a little bit more solid, a little bit more tried and true and comfortable, can be very useful for you. With Gemini, this is an energy of maybe not thinking things through when it comes to your purchases. So people who have Gemini occupying the second house might be impulse spenders, especially when you're at the checkout and you see something that you really like, or you're at the store and you go to, wherever you go to like your, hopefully your local mom and pop, cute little store, but maybe you're at a Target and you go to buy two things and you're the person that goes and buys like 20 different things that have nothing to do with what you initially needed to purchase, because it was cool, it was fun, it was there, it was exciting in the moment, it piqued your curiosity. So that's one of the areas that you kind of need to work on as a Gemini second house. The other thing with Gemini being in your second house is that first and foremost, Gemini is a sign of communication, and it's a sign of ideas, it's a sign of information. And so what you value to spend your money on is information, is sometimes entertainment too. That can be a Gemini thing, but like infotainment. And so you might have a lot of subscriptions. You might purchase a lot of courses. You might, invest in your education and your knowledge in some way. And that can actually be very valuable. And if you are spending money in that way can be very useful. Also, putting money back into your community, putting money into your neighborhood, putting money into your immediate environment can be very satisfying for you in a lot of ways. That Gemini energy indicates that you need to be malleable and flexible with the way that you generate income and the way that you save your resources and spend your money. And so you have to be able to be flexible and to roll with the punches. This can indicate being an odd job person, where you might have a lot of different side hustles or different things that you work on, and actually spreading yourself a little bit more thin in that way can be good for you. Even though you're a Taurus, you're very reliable, very stable. There is this energy here of needing to have more than one income stream. So it's like multiple income streams in multiple places that you're putting your money or investing your money. That's going to be where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. With Mercury being the ruler of your second house, keep that in mind, because we're going to be talking about the second house ruler later on in this video. With Mercury being the ruler of the second house, relying on other sources of information. So maybe doing your homework, researching, learning, listening to podcasts about finances, getting advice from a financial advisor, talking it out with other people can be helpful in creating a better, more well-rounded financial strategy. And so again, keep that Mercury in mind for later on in this video. And then for Gemini rising, For Gemini rising, Cancer is actually in your second house. And so Cancer is a cardinal sign, it's a water sign, it's the sign of home and family and support, and it's the sign that's most tied in with our emotions and our emotional experience because it is ruled by the moon. Remember that your second house is ruled by the moon for later on in this video. And so one of the things that you can see with people who have Cancer in the second house is that there can be a tie or some sort of involvement with the family and their resources. This can also indicate sometimes doing really well in real estate or with housing or with property in some way. Usually your money can kind of wax and wane with the tides, with the moon, right? So it doesn't necessarily stay static. It'll come in a lot and then it'll kind of wane and then it'll come in and it'll wane. It kind of goes in cycles. Your earnings go in cycles, your spending goes in cycles, your savings go in cycles. Hopefully those cycles continue to slowly increase, but you will see that it will be cyclical. It won't be stable and just this straight line of where your savings is going up, 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 up through time. It kind of goes in an upward spiral, we should say. That's the ideal situation for a Cancer second house. This also indicates that it's best to utilize your intuition when it comes to not just generating income, but saving and spending your money. Make sure that you're sitting with every purchase for several days, if not longer, for a bigger purchase before you pull the trigger, before you click that buy now button, before you jump all in, because you need to make sure that you go through that full range of the emotional experience before you do anything that's a big financial decision, before you take that new job, before you take that side hustle, before you start that new investment account. Whatever it is that you're doing, you need to make sure that you feel it out, not just on the day that it's exciting to you, but on the day that it's not so exciting to you, on the day where you're having a bad day and your emotions are really low, and on the day when you're feeling really high. And so that's part of the energy of Cancer in the second house as well. This is also a good energy for earning resources through family connections, through doing things that are intuitive, through working in the realm of emotion, through working in the realm of creativity, or again, it could have to do with home and property investments and things like that. These can all be really great ways to enhance your wealth, and owning property, like actual physical property, especially a home, can be a good investment for people who have Cancer in the second house as well. And then for Cancer rising, I'm getting a little mixed up because we're doing the second house for each rising. So for Cancer rising, your second house is occupied by the sign of Leo. Leo is a fixed fire sign. And so this is an energy that is a little set or stuck in its ways when it comes to the way that it earns and utilizes resources. This is an energy where you might feel a little nostalgic for the good old days, for like a golden period in your life where you earned a lot of money, where you had a lot of beautiful possessions. For Cancer rising people in particular, this energy tends to express through wanting to buy things that are kind of flashy, kind of luxurious, kind of over the top, a little bit gaudy. And so I don't see a lot of good savers who have this particular configuration unless it's otherwise indicated by, let's say, planets in your second house, which you can look up with that Astrology 101 PDF guide, or the ruler of the second house, which for you is the sun. One thing that can be said about the energy of Leo is that Leo is very generous in the second house. And so you use your money in a way that's fun. You use your money in a way that's playful and spontaneous. And you're not afraid to give to the people that you care about. You're not afraid to be generous to your family, to your friends, to those that you hold dear, that you have a deep emotional connection to as a Cancer rising. And so it is a sign of generosity and giving freely, but it can also be a sign of luxury and wanting to purchase things that are a little too over the top or a little too grandiose. And so you need to make sure that you're keeping your spending in check, especially if you don't have the resources for things like that. This is a sign that can go into debt to buy that luxury purchase, to buy that really fancy car, to buy that really fancy house that you can't actually afford, to buy a boat even though you don't live anywhere near the water, those types of things. And so you'll see that kind of stuff sometimes crop up. What's really good for you financially, so working in things that involve entertainment, creativity, being an entrepreneur can be really great for those who have Leo in the second house. Being in a leadership position can be really powerful for you financially. And so utilizing and harnessing that energy along with the energy of your second house ruler, which is the sun, which we'll talk about later in this video, that's going to be the way that you get the most bang for your buck. And then for Leo rising people, you're going to have your second house occupied by the sign of Virgo. Virgo is very meticulous with their finances. And so even though you're a Leo and you can be a little bit more like showy and flashy externally with your personality, with your persona, with your personal appearance, you're a saver and you're somebody who's really good at keeping track of your resources and maybe even other people's resources as well. You're good at paying attention to the details, looking at all of your statements and spreadsheets and knowing where all of the money is going. And so being very close when it comes to just your budget and making sure that all of the numbers are lining up and you know where everything is going and you're planning in advance for all of the purchases you need to make can actually be very helpful and very useful for Leo rising people. And it's your natural tendency anyway. Working in fields where you're able to use that Virgoan energy, so where you're able to show up in service to help other people, that's a big thing where you can actually make more money even as a Leo rising in a service position or working for someone or helping people than being kind of front and center showy, like, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So making sure that whatever you're doing to earn money, you're doing it from a place of service and wanting to help. That can be very energetically useful for bringing in money into your second house. This is a really great energy for making a lot of different sound investments, but also you need to be flexible with the way that you are saving, spending, and investing your money because this is a mutable sign. And so it's grounded in that it's an earth sign. You're very good with looking at your material possessions and what's tangible. However, there does need to be a certain level of flexibility. Even though you're tracking all the numbers, when you see something needs to go in a different area or you need to spend differently or you need to, you know, start that other side hustle to bring in a little bit more money, you need to be able to roll with the punches there. And so all of those things are really important for Virgo. Virgo is also a Mercury ruled sign. So Mercury is the ruler of your second house. Keep that information in your back pocket for later in this video. But that Mercury influence indicates that doing your research, doing your homework, reading books about finances, listening to podcasts about the topic, maybe even taking little courses about investing or saving or, finances in general can be very fruitful for you because you're very easily able to take in that information, assimilate it, and utilize it in day-to-day life and in your day-to-day habits for saving and spending. Virgo people also, or Virgo second house people can also earn more resources through things that are Virgoan, not just when it comes to service, but through paying attention to the details, things that are organizational, things that are managerial, things like accounting can be really great for Virgo second house people. Also things involving health, involving nutrition, involving herbs, involving the body. Those types of endeavors can be really great investments, side hustles, or even, career opportunities that can bring in a lot of money for Virgo second house people. Again, this is not the whole picture. You're going to have to look at where your second house ruler is, planets in that sign, but we will get to that very shortly. For Virgo rising people, So for Virgo rising, Libra is in your second house of finances. Libra is all about balance and harmony and tranquility and equilibrium, and you're really good at keeping your budget balanced. You're very fair and balanced when it comes to the way that you utilize your resources, the way that you save, earn, and spend money, and that you always have enough coming in for what's going out. And so you're never going to overextend yourself unless something's going on with your second house ruler, which is Venus, or you have other planetary indicators, which you can find out about some later in this video, or jump on into the Cosmic Academy of Astrology if you really want to learn everything about your birth chart and your finances. But with Libra being in the second house, having somebody to bounce the ideas off of, having somebody as a sounding board, having a financial advisor or somebody who you trust who can help you manage your money and take care of your resources can be very useful for you. Also, making money works better in partnership or in collaboration with other people for Virgo risings because of that Libra in the second house. And so bringing other people into the mix, bringing partners into the mix can be very energetically helpful in increasing abundance in that second house of wealth for you. This is also an energy of, yes, you make sure you have enough coming in and enough going out, but it can be too balanced where you're always just left with a level playing field instead of having it increase. And so you want to make sure that you're paying attention to that. You also want to make sure that you're not overly spending on things that are just aesthetically very pleasing and beautiful, because that is a Libra second house thing and a Virgo thing too. Like, you pay very close attention to detail. You pay very close attention to, the things that you purchase and how they function and how they look, and making sure everything is perfect and pristine. And especially when it comes to the aesthetics. And so you might spend on artwork, on music, on things that are, beautiful, but they might not necessarily be necessities. And so that pragmatic Virgo energy is kind of overtaken by that Libra in the second house a little bit. And so you want to also make note of that. Venus is the ruler of your second house, and Venus is the planet of love and relationships. And we talked about bringing other people into the mix. This could also be a really great energy for making money, not just through partnership and not just through relationships, but through aesthetics. So not only would you have an inclination to make purchases that not just beautify your life, but have aesthetic value and all of that, but are harmonizing in some way or are beautiful in some way. And also, you might be a little bit more prone to spend money on other people. And so that could be something to just kind of make note of as well. So you want to make sure that you're giving and receiving when it comes to your finances. And so that's what's going on for Virgo rising. So for Libra rising, you're going to have Scorpio occupying your second house of finances. Scorpio is an interesting placement in the second house. You can be very possessive and obsessive over your money, your wealth, and your resources. You're going to be very protective of your income. You're going to be very protective of your savings. You're not going to want anyone nosing around your books and your accounts and knowing all of your financial business, and that's okay. It's probably best that you keep it to yourself and only trust people that you've really vetted and that are deeply loyal, because you are going to be a little bit more sensitive to betrayal in that area. But you're also going to be less likely to take people's financial advice, even as a Libra who's normally more receptive and open as a Libra rising to other people's opinions and ideas and things like that. When it comes to your finances, you keep that locked down, right? You keep that secret. You keep that to yourself. This is also a really great energy for making money through other people's resources, through investments. I've seen people, and I don't usually say like, oh, this is a great energy for debt, but I've seen people who have Libra rising harness debt in order to create more wealth for themselves in some way. And so that is something that is maybe a little bit better for Libra risings. Again, you have to consider the whole chart. I am not a financial advisor. I don't know you personally. I don't have your whole chart in front of me, but in general, Libra rising people can do better with that. Scorpio in the second house indicates that you can earn money through bringing in esoteric energies, through using magic, even. And so, if that's something that is interesting to you, applicable to your practice, then definitely bring that into the mix. You can earn money through things like research. You're actually really good at researching things when it comes to your finances and researching purchases that you make. You are probably a sign that does not just go in and buy something. You read all the reviews, you research all of the different products and all the different options, and you really know what you're buying before you buy it, and that can be really good. You vet things, and you vet your investments the exact same way. You vet those accounts that you put your money in the exact same way. And so, yes, it's an energy of being very possessive of your resources. Your finances should probably be your finances, even as a Libra rising. Like, you need to have your own accounts and your own money, even if you have shared or joint accounts with your partner as well. That's going to be the best option for most Libra rising people. And just as another note here, Mars is the ruler of your second house. So keep that information in your back pocket for a little bit later. But this can make you more prone to being defensive when it comes to your money and the way that you spend your money. It can be a greater source of arguments and disputes, finances, for you. And this indicates taking a very active role. You are the driving force when it comes to your resources. Again, you're not relying on other people. You're very independent financially, or at least with the way that you deal with your finances. Again, investments and things like that, and even taking out loans can work in your favor a lot of the time. But really, you are the motivating force. You are the driving factor. And also, Scorpio second house people, so Libra rising, are very easily able to draw in resources when they need it. It's almost as if when it's truly necessary, when deep down in your gut you know that this is what you need to buy, this is what you need to invest in, this is the next financial move, the money will just kind of draw in and show up, or the opportunities and circumstances will show up for you in that way. So it's a good manifestation sign. However, it doesn't just come like, I want $1 million. It has to be like this visceral, like, this is what you need, which is not always what your brain thinks you need or society tells you that you need financially. Okay, and then for Scorpio and Scorpio rising people, or just Scorpio rising people, I should say, Sagittarius is the second house, or occupies the second house in your birth chart. For Scorpio rising people, money, so this is typically a good energy for bringing in money, but it can also indicate being very generous and very adventurous with the way that you utilize and spend and save and create your resources. And so this is an energy, again, that's mutable. You need a lot of flexibility with the way that you save, the way that you spend. You can't stick to a very stringent budget, although you should probably get a hold of your money and keep track of it. That's something that Scorpio rising people with that Sagittarius second house might not do as thoroughly as some of the other signs. It's something that you might need to work on. But this is an energy of needing to be flexible, needing to be open to opportunities as they arise, because that is a very Sagittarian quality. Philosophically, you probably have a lot of very strict moral and ethical values around money, ideals around the way that you save, invest, and spend your money. You might only purchase things from companies that you believe are ethical. You might only invest your money in certain things that you believe are ethical and sound in that way. So for Scorpio rising people, you tend to spend money with integrity, and so that's definitely not a bad thing. Scorpio rising people, because Sagittarius is in your second house, and Sagittarius is very adventurous. It's very inclined to travel, to really enjoy new experiences, and to gain wisdom and knowledge through experience. These are all things that you value when it comes to the way that you spend your resources. You'll spend more freely on an adventure than you will on some sort of luxurious item that you don't necessarily need. You'll spend more freely on a trip to a foreign country or a connection to somebody in a foreign culture or land, or maybe an actual physical item that is connected to another culture or has some sort of significance in that way. You'll also spend more freely when it comes to your education, especially when it comes to gaining higher knowledge and wisdom. And these are also areas that can help you to gain more resources. And so investing in things that are foreign, investing in things involving travel, investing in education can all be fruitful for you, or gaining resources through a career in education, a career as a professor or a teacher, as somebody who maybe shares esoteric knowledge or religious knowledge of some kind. Maybe you're somebody who works with foreign countries or foreign companies in some way. That can all be really fruitful for Sagittarius in the second house. And because Sagittarius is in your second house, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. And so Jupiter is a planet that you're going to want to look to when we get into the later part of this course. But Jupiter is a really beautiful planet to have as the ruler of your second house. It's the great benefic. It's very expansive. It can expand on your resources, but it can also expand on your spending and make it so, you spend a little wildly. Again, this is not the best energy for keeping track of your spending. And so that's something that you're going to have to do a little bit more thoroughly and be a little bit more disciplined with, and work on that in other ways. But this could also be an energy potentially of overspending and overdoing it, especially in those areas of like travel and adventure. Like maybe you take a lot of vacations, but you can't necessarily afford it, that type of thing. So you want to be careful there. But otherwise, it's a beautiful energy to have for your second house. For Sagittarius rising people, Capricorn is in your second house, which is actually a really responsible, really down to earth, really grounded energy when it comes to dealing with your resources. And so the way that you save, earn, and spend money is very self-disciplined. This is an energy of feeling like you have to work hard for your resources. That could be a value that was instilled in you early on, that money doesn't come easily, money doesn't grow on trees, that you have to work and earn your living, and you're very responsible in doing so. This is also an energy of being very responsible with keeping track of your spending. People who have Capricorn in the second house do tend to be savers, even as a Sagittarius rising, which can be a little bit more adventurous and flexible and fun-loving and gregarious. There's still this energy here when it comes to your finances of a little bit more structure and rigidity. This could indicate, having a really solid savings plan, making sure that your investments are all lined up in a row. This is a really great energy for earning money through institutions, especially, which is not a very Sagittarian thing, but when it comes to your resources, it can be very helpful to work for a corporation or a hierarchy, or to start your own corporation. That could be something that could work well for Sagittarius too. So all of these things are possibilities. Working for the government or with governments in some way, making sure that you have some very strict boundaries, rules, and regulations when it comes to your resources. This is an energy where you tend to have a lot of resources later on in life, so you tend to retire with a lot of money because you were very good about being disciplined with your savings, with your earnings early on, and so that can be very helpful. So make sure that you're starting those retirement accounts sooner than later for Sagittarius rising. Saturn is the ruler of your second house, and so keep that information in your back pocket for later in this video. This indicates that you do need a lot of structure when it comes to your finances, or else you won't feel comfortable. You can have a hard time spending even when you need to, and so that's something to work on for Sagittarius rising, because sometimes you need to take a risk when it comes to your finances. You're really great at taking risks in other areas, but this might be an area where that's not so much the case. And when you're so averse to risk when it comes to finances, you might miss out on opportunities to increase your income, to increase your wealth in some way. And then for Capricorn rising. So for Capricorn rising, Aquarius is occupying your second house of finances. This indicates that you can earn money very easily through things that are unique, outside the box, unusual. This is also a really great energy for doing things that are kind of counterculture or counterintuitive to others when it comes to the way that you create resources, save resources, or spend your money. It doesn't have to make sense to other people, it just has to make sense to you. It doesn't have to be the popular way of going about dealing with your resources. It just has to, again, be your way and make sense to you. This is also a really great energy for earning money or investing in things to do with technology, to do with society, or even things like social media and social platforms can be really fruitful. Doing things electronically can be really good for this particular rising sign and for having Aquarius in your second house. This is also a very humanitarian energy. And so Capricorn rising people are not afraid to donate money to a cause, to get into some sort of humanitarian type of work that benefits the greater good of humanity. Definitely, even though you have to do things your own way and in a way that's very unique or unusual or outside the box, or you might have an outside of the box career path that brings in money, working with people in collaboration with groups can be very fruitful to you financially as well. And so maybe joining some sort of investment group or some sort of club or something like that, or a group course online that has to do with finances, that can be really helpful to you as well. Having Aquarius in the second house can indicate that you earn money through Aquarian things, not just technology, not just things like electricity, which can be Aquarian, but even things that are more unusual, but not that outside the box, like astrology, right? Which is very traditional, but is also ruled by Aquarius and is considered to be unique and unusual, especially in modern times. And so all of those things are possibilities for Capricorn rising. And then finally, or not finally, we have two more. Aquarius rising. Aquarius rising people have Pisces in the second house. This can be very difficult for holding on to your resources. Money flows in when you need it, but it flows out just as quickly. It's like it melts into water through your fingertips, and it's like, where did all of that money go? It was here a minute ago. I'm glad I had it when I needed it, but now it's just kind of washed away. And so you are somebody who does need to be a little bit more careful with holding on to your resources. You need to create structure, because structure is not going to just come naturally to you when it comes to your budget, when it comes to saving money. Saving money is going to be the hardest thing for Aquarius rising, because again, every time that money comes in and you build it up, something comes up and it flows right through your fingertips. One of the best ways to deal with this is to be a little bit more Saturnian about it and make sure that you do have that structure, but also you can play to the strengths of this energy. So having a very good spiritual practice or spiritual connection around your physical possessions and around your material wealth can be very helpful. So instead of detaching from material wealth, instead of detaching from material desires and needs, create some sort of spiritual practice or spiritual connection around your appreciation for those things. This is one of the best energies for visualizing money and visualizing what you want financially when it comes to your possessions, and actually having those visualizations manifest when you actively put in the work. So you do have to do Saturnian things as well to kind of mitigate that Neptunian, that Piscean, that really flowy energy. You need to be able to go with the flow, because you can manifest what you need when you need it, but you also want to manifest more than just what you need. You want to manifest in abundance, so you have more than what's just basic necessity for you. This is a really great energy for earning money through things that are Piscean. So working with water, working with the oceans, working with medicine, working with things that are spiritual or in the spiritual realm, doing things that are deeply creative, or investing in things that are deeply creative. These can all be very helpful for Aquarius rising people. And as a Pisces second house, your second house is ruled by the planet Jupiter. And so Jupiter brings expansion, abundance, good fortune. It's not a bad planet to have as the ruler of your second house. And especially for Pisces rising, looking to the placement of your second house ruler, which again is Jupiter, which we'll talk about in just a few moments here, that's going to be especially fruitful, because that's where you're potentially going to get a more tangible energy that can help you lock in some additional money to grow your wealth and your resources. And then finally, for Pisces rising people, Aries is occupying your second house. This is really good for being very financially independent. You want to make money in the way that you want to do it. You need to be able to play to your own strengths, to exercise your willpower. You're very motivated when it comes to taking action toward creating resources. And so this can be really great in a lot of ways. However, it can lead to you being very impulsive and also, being kind of like an island when it comes to the way that you generate wealth, where you're not necessarily getting advice from other people. You're not necessarily looking to the best resources or guidance. You're just doing what you feel like you want to do in the moment when it comes to your money. It's like, I want to do this job. I want to do that job. I want to put money here because it feels like it right now. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And it's very unplanned. And that can be good. Like, you need some of that. But for people who have Aries in the second house, you do need to start taking into a little bit consideration the opinions, the values of other people. You need to have a context for the way that you're taking action when it comes to your resources that might not be there when you're just being guided by impulse. A lot of times, especially if your ruler of the second house, which is Mars, is nicely placed, your impulse might be very positive. It might lead you in the right direction. And so you don't want to ignore those impulses like, hey, I need to take advantage of that project, that opportunity, that contract. I need to sign that because if I get in on that, I have this feeling this is going to bring money. Those things can be good if it's a visceral feeling. And again, Mars in your chart is nicely placed, which we'll talk about later. But being too impulsive can lead to your downfall. You might spend impulsively, you might buy things impulsively and kind of overdo it financially in that way. And again, you might not take really good advice just because it's advice and because it's not your decision. It's not the thing that you in the moment think that you want to do. And so that can cause problems as well. People with Aries in the second house can you earn money through careers or investments that have to do with Aries types of things. So it could have to do with war or the military. It could have to do with weapons or violence. It could have to do with sharp objects. So maybe you collect knives or sell knives. You are a knife salesman. I don't know if that's the most lucrative job, but something involving sharp instruments. Also, something involving fire very literally or heat in some way, or just doing things independently. So being an independent contractor of some kind, being in a leadership position, doing something where you have more independence when it comes to the way that you create your resources can be very helpful for Pisces rising. And so that is finances for all of the rising signs. And so let's get into the energy of not just the rising signs and not just the second house, but the ruler of the second house. And so as we went through all of the rising signs, I mentioned for each rising sign, which planet is your second house ruler. In this second part of the video, we're going to look at which house that planet occupies in your birth chart and whole sign houses. And so again, for this, you're going to want to pull up your Astrology 101 PDF guide, and you're going to want to look to see what that planet is and what it signifies. We talked a little bit about that in each of the signs. And then you're going to want to look at where it's placed in your birth chart, and the Astrology 101 guide will help you to do that, again, free down below, if you don't already know how to find that placement. And so you're going to want to look at, okay, let's say Aries, like we'll go with the Pisces. Aries occupies your second house. Mars is the ruler of Aries. In which house does Mars sit in your whole sign house birth chart? It could be in any of the 12 houses. And so once you've found that information, let's dive into the ruler of the second house in all 12 houses. So the placement of your second house ruler in the birth chart is going to show you the best ways to go about acquiring and utilizing your resources. It gives you an additional layer of information that you can combine with what you learned about your second house based on your rising sign from the first part of this video. You're going to want to take into account not just the energy of your rising sign, but also this energy that we're discussing here about house rulerships in combination with everything else in your birth chart to get a really deep, really holistic overview of how finances can work best for you. And so this isn't the only thing to look at. Of course, there's a lot more. And if you really want to learn how to unpack the birth chart when it comes to finances and so much more, make sure you check out the Cosmic Academy of Astrology down in the link below. But in the meantime, let's get into the second house ruler being placed in the first house. So anytime you have the ruler of any house placed in the first, it indicates that those topics and themes are very self-guided and self-directed. You are the master of your own destiny when it comes to your finances. The choices you make, the way that you exercise your willpower, the way that you engage with finances in general, that's all up to you. You are the cause of your own financial situation. It's not external circumstances, it's the choices you make. And so by making better financial choices and by focusing more energy on your financial situation and improving your financial situation, you do have the power to change things because this is so self-directed and self-guided. When you have the ruler of the second house, which is money, material possessions, and material values, in your first house, it indicates that money and finances are a major life theme. Some of the biggest changes, transitions, events, life circumstances that show up for you across your entire lifespan are going to be involving finances. They're going to be involving major purchases. They're going to be involving investments and savings. They're going to be involving money in general and the way that you earn money. A lot of your personal identity is tied in with your resources, and so you want to make sure that you have a good handle on these things. Because you are front and center when it comes to the way that you make your money, being financially independent is hugely important, and being independent in the way that you create, generate, and utilize your resources is important as well. This means that this is a very entrepreneurial placement where you can be heavily involved in the way you go about creating resources through a business, through investments that you make, through possessions that you own that maybe help accumulate wealth. So investments in actual material possessions. So this is all on you. But this is a really great energy for being in some sort of leadership position, for being front and center, for starting a personal brand of some kind and making money through that venture. And so making sure that you are the one who's in charge and in control of not just your financial situation, but the way you go about earning money. Working for someone else might not work as well for you, financially at least. It might be satisfying in other ways, but really this is about you doing your thing and doing it in your own way. This is about following your own inner guidance, your own path, your own purpose. Some of you might make money through your identity, through your personality, through your persona, that personal brand that I talked about, or even through your appearance. I've seen a lot of people who are famous or who are in modeling and things like that who have placements such as this one. And so all of these things are potentials. They're not just one potential. You have a whole variety here. And of course, you do want to combine this with the energy of your second house in general that we talked about at the start of this video to get a more holistic overview. But the biggest events in your life, the biggest changes are going to come through financial situations, through investments, and through changes that you make financially. And so money is very important. You need to really make sure that you're financially literate because you are the driver of this ship. When it comes to having the second house ruler in the second house, this is considered to be very fortunate. Because if the second house ruler is in your second house, that means your second house ruler is in its home sign. That means that it can express itself in its fullest potential, that it is supported in one of the best possible ways in carrying out its significations. And one of its significations in your chart, being the second house ruler, is to generate and create wealth, to deal with money and finances. Depending on what planet it is that we're talking about here, the planetary ruler, it might show up a little bit differently for you. And so if you have the second house ruler as a malefic influence, meaning Mars or Saturn, it might not be as abundant as if you have the second house ruler as a benefic influence, such as Venus or Jupiter at home in the second house. If that's the case, then this is one of the best influences that you can have financially when it comes to the second house ruler and its placement. This indicates that even though you might not have money falling from the sky, even though you might not be rolling around in piles of cash, money is not going to be, the biggest problem for you, the biggest hardship for you personally, unless there are other indicators in your birth chart that show that. And so money can come to you when you need it. You'll never be completely without, and it'll never be the worst case scenario for you. And so you are protected if you have a benefic in your second house that is your second house ruler in particular, because that energy is being enhanced, it's being supported, it's able to carry out its beautiful and positive significations in your area of finance in the best possible way. Having the second house ruler in the second house can indicate that you could do really well in the area of finance when it comes to your career. And so that could be a lucrative place for you to look. You could be an investor, you could be a stockbroker, you could be a day trader, you could be somebody who works in accounting, you could be somebody who does something involving purchasing or trade. That could be a really good second house energy as well. Something involving actual material items or the selling of goods and material items could be really prolific for you and really abundant for you. And so all of these things are possible with the second house ruler in the second house. But in general, again, this is considered to be an easier or better placement, even if the energy is technically malefic, like Saturn or Mars as the ruler of the second house. It doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily have a terrible time financially because these planets are in their home sign. It just indicates that you still have to work for your resources. It doesn't come naturally. It doesn't come on its own. It's not all about luck and good fortune. With Saturn, it's about hard work and putting in the time. And with Mars, it's about, taking action and taking advantage of opportunity and making sure that you're staying motivated, because a lot of this is going to come through your own volition. And so again, second house ruler in the second house, great placement. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, your money ruler is in your money house. And so it kind of fits really well. You're probably very financially literate. You probably do quite well with understanding your resources and navigating your financial situation, regardless of where you stand kind of on the financial spectrum. When it comes to the second house ruler in the third house, you can earn money through education, through sharing and disseminating information, through writing, through teaching, through early education, through getting involved with a community organization. You could have literally a business within your community, and that could be very fruitful for you. I've seen some people with the second house ruler in the third house who have their finances connected in some way to their siblings or extended family members. And so they get into business with their family or with their siblings. And that can actually work quite well, especially if that second house ruler is nicely aspected by other planets or is in a positive position based on its sign placement. And so these are all things that are potentials. Working in travel could be really fruitful for you. Working in communication in some way, even doing something like customer support or customer service, although that's not typically a lucrative career path, you could do it in a way that is more lucrative and it could bring money in more easily for you. If you have some sort of side hustle that has to do with podcasting or blogging or, sending out email newsletters, whatever, something to do with communicating and teaching and sharing information, that could be a really great way to bring in some extra money. The third house also rules transportation vehicles. And so sometimes you'll see people with this position who make money through they have an auto sales business, or they rent cars, or they are on one of those car renting websites or something along those lines, or they Uber or Lyft for extra money, and that actually helps them quite a bit. And so again, lots of different potentials and possibilities, but one of my favorite things about this placement is that you can do a lot when it comes to what is really prominent on the internet today, which is, selling online courses, selling your brain, your information, your ideas in some way. And so that's one of the things you can do with the ruler of the second house in the third. Ruler of the second house in the fourth. This is an interesting one. And so I love, love, love this in most cases for investing in real estate, for property ownership, for having some sort of maybe multi-unit rental, especially if it's a residential rental. So maybe having an income generating property that's bringing in cash flow that you rent out to families and to other people so that way they can have a beautiful home to live in. This is also an energy where sometimes your money gets tied up with your family. And so sometimes you might have some sort of inheritance, or your family is mooching off of you if the energy is more malefic. And so you do want to be careful of that. Mixing family with money can be really great if you have a positive placement of the ruler of the second house in the fourth, where it's nicely aligned with other planets, or it's in a positive placement by sign. But it can also bring disaster if it's a malefic energy, if it's being squared by a bunch of planets, if it's in a negative placement or in its fall or its detriment by sign. And so you need to take into account the whole picture when it comes to mixing business and family. But if you do have that positive placement, this can be really fruitful going into business with your family, joining the family business. You could get some sort of inheritance or money that's passed down or funding through your family in some way. And all of those things are really beautiful. Sometimes you could work literally with interiors or home design or construction of homes. Those can all be really great things to do with the ruler of the second in the fourth house. This is also a really good energy for working with families. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that you're working, with your own family. That might sound terrible to some of you, but it could be, working with families and family units in general. And that could be something that could be very fruitful. I also see sometimes that people who have home-based businesses do better financially when they have this placement of the ruler of the second in the fourth house. And so all of these things are potentials for you. The ruler of the second house in the fifth house. So this is a fun placement. So a lot of times you can do a lot with, working with your passions. And so this is a great energy to earn money by doing the things that you love to do. Starting a side business that has to do with your artwork, your performance, the thing that you're doing as a hobby already that you love. You don't have to monetize everything you do, but when the ruler of the second house is in the fifth, you kind of do because that will actually be really abundant for you in a lot of ways. This is a really great energy for working with children, so teaching or running a daycare service, or doing some type of therapy involving children. Even if you're like a doctor, being a pediatrician or working in a specialty like at a children's hospital could be more abundant for you than other types of practices. And so looking at that fifth house energy and how it's tied to play and performance and fun and children, those things all kind of come in there. Also, the fifth house is the house of entertainment. So working in the entertainment industry, working in the restaurant industry, working, at a concert venue or owning a concert venue. These can all be really great things to do with the ruler of the second and the fifth house, or great things to just invest in. The fifth house is also the house of romance. And so if you work with couples, like doing something like sex therapy, especially because the fifth house is the house of sexuality, that could be really wonderful for you. And so really looking at where your interests lie and how you can incorporate that fun, playful, beautiful, romantic fifth house energy into the way that you deal with your money, that can be very fruitful, very abundant for you in so many different ways. Just get creative with it, have fun with it. This is a great placement to have because your money comes through things that you actually enjoy. Ruler of the fifth house in the sixth house. This is where you're going to have to work a little bit harder for your resources. So this is where kind of working behind the scenes, putting in the effort and the routine every single day toward building the financial life that you want for yourself, that is where you're going to get the most bang for your buck, very literally. This is also a great placement for doing something where you're working in service, so in a service industry, or it's better for you in most cases to be an employee versus an employer, unless your business has to do with sixth house topics and themes, which has to do with things like pets, animals. So maybe you're a veterinarian, and that's also factoring in the sixth house theme of health, right? And so working in the field of health, nutrition, being a doctor and nurse, a nutritionist, an herbalist, a healer of some kind, or working with animals can all be really wonderful for you financially, or investing in these different things. But again, you're somebody who has to put in the work every single day. It's not a kick back, relax, and have a vacation. It's not being an influencer and taking photos of yourself on a yacht and getting money from like brand deals. This is more like you're kind of behind the scenes working, but the money's coming in as a result of that. This is, yeah, it's not the easiest energy for the second house ruler, but it is something you can work with. So as long as you're working with the energy, you're putting in the routine and making like financial, making like budgeting and saving and dealing with your finances a part of your day-to-day routine is actually going to be much more helpful for you than kind of looking at it more sporadically. So you want to incorporate that every single day and incorporate something that improves your money mindset and your understanding of wealth and finances every single day as part of your routine as well. Ruler of the second house in the seventh house. So this is a great energy for making money in partnership. Sometimes you might have a partner that makes a lot of money, and a lot of your money comes through your romantic partnership, your spouse, your significant other. And that's okay. That's not a bad thing. It's similar energy with the eighth, but this is more direct. It's kind of like through your partnership and through your relationships in general, money becomes more abundant. Money flows in more easily. This is really great if you are in business to go into partnership with somebody else. If you're making an investment, doing it as a joint venture with somebody else, not necessarily your spouse. If you don't have one, that's not going to be the case, but doing things together with somebody because other people help benefit you financially, especially if the second house ruler is really nicely placed in that second house. These are all things, of course, we talk about in the Cosmic Academy of Astrology, how to determine that. But basically, you know, if the second house ruler is in its home sign, its exaltation, if it's positively aspected by other planets, then you have the green light to do things together in partnership to benefit yourself financially. So the second house ruler in the eighth house. This is a fun one for me because this is my personal placement. And so if you have the second house ruler in the eighth house, a lot of different things are possible for you. You can make money through joint finances in marriage, joint finances in business ventures. Money can come to you through investments, inheritance, insurance payouts, and other forms of external circumstances that bring money in from an outside source. This is also excellent for diving into eighth house topics and themes. And so this is really great for earning money through occult sciences, such as astrology, just like I do. I have Jupiter in my eighth house as the ruler of my second, and I teach astrology, right? And so it's very literal, and that works really well for me. It might not be Jupiter that's in your eighth house, but you still could work with something like astrology, something like different esoteric topics, something different when it involves the occult sciences. You could make money through magic or through working with magic in some way. You could make money in the field of psychology, which is actually my background. I got a master's degree in clinical psychology, although that's not where I ended up placing my energy. And anyway, this is not about me, this is about you. So that's an area where you could think about, you know, venturing into to earn more income, to earn more resources. Also therapy or diving into your psychological blockages, your fears and anxieties around money can help to unlock earning potential for you exponentially. That is a wonderful thing to do with ruler of the second house in the eighth, because the eighth is our deep-seated fears and anxieties that are rooted in trauma from our early life experience. And so if you had a lot of financial trauma, if you had a lot of financial instability or difficulty in your childhood, this is something where healing through that psychologically, emotionally can really help open things up for you in a tangible, physical way, materially. This is also a great area for research. This is also a great area for earning money through things that involve death, because it is the eighth house of death. And so you might earn your income through, again, like an inheritance or something like that, but it could even be through like owning a funeral home or becoming a death doula, or, you know, being a psychic medium. Actually, like mediumship shows up very strongly in the eighth, because the eighth is the house of death, and you're, you know, communicating with people on the other side. And so that's something that, if it's applicable to you, you could earn money through. Ruler of the second in the eighth house is one of the better ones for working in harmony with other people financially. So, you know, getting investors in your business, getting backers for your new like product, your new idea, things like that, crowdfunding, whatever it is that you need to do. Venture capitalism can be really good for the eighth house. Investing in other people's companies and businesses can be really good for ruler of the second in the eighth house. All of these things are potentials and possibilities for you. Ruler of the second house in the ninth house. This is a beautiful placement because the ninth house is a really positive house. It has to do with adventure. It has to do with expanding your knowledge, your wisdom. It's your perspective on life, your perspective on reality. And it's very aligned with integrity. And so it has to do with your moral and ethical value systems, your belief systems. And so for you, you have to earn money with integrity, and you have to use your money with integrity. Whatever you purchase, whatever you invest in, whatever you do involving actual tangible resources has to be in alignment with what you believe to be right. This is also a really great placement for earning money through travel, through connections with foreign countries. Maybe you have a job where you travel a lot for work. That could actually be really fruitful for you. If you own a company working with people in foreign countries and foreign entities, that can be really fruitful for you. This is really great for earning money through education. So getting a higher degree can actually be, a good investment for somebody with the ruler of the second in the ninth house, especially because of the return you'll get on that investment. But also you could work for like a college or a higher educational institution, or you could teach or share information. This is also a really great energy for earning money through religion, through philosophy, through higher esoteric types of knowledge. This is a really great energy for sharing what you know, the wisdom that you have with other people, and monetizing that in some way through creating a course of some kind. And so all of these things are potentials and possibilities. This is also a really great energy for earning money through adventure. And so doing things that are adventurous, doing things that are like different in terms of they take you to different places. I've seen sometimes this with even people who are like in the military will have a 10th or a second house connection to the ninth, because they travel and they end up in a lot of different foreign places as a result of being in the military. This is also a really great one because it is long distance travel, for like being a pilot or maybe owning an airplane. All of these things are beautiful for a ruler of the second house in the ninth. Ruler of the second house in the 10th. This is your entrepreneurs. These are your business owners. This isn't just like the fifth house entrepreneurship where you're taking something you're passionate about and you're monetizing it, and maybe it's fun, maybe you're loving it, but it's not like this serious, like I'm going to create a multi-million-dollar company, whereas ruler of the 10th house can be that. This is where money comes through your leadership, your expertise, your ability to be front and center. Money comes through your public reputation and the impact you make on the world. If you are not a business owner, if you don't own your own company, you need to build yourself up and climb to the top of a hierarchy in the company that you're working for, in the industry of your choice. Connections with people in power and leadership positions in your field can get you very far financially. Asking for a raise when you have the ruler of the second in the 10th typically goes better for you than it does for other people. As long as you're working hard, as long as you're putting yourself out there, as long as you have very clear goals that you are working toward and you are enthusiastic about and you're motivated about, you are going to be fine. But you do have to work for your resources. This is one of those energies where, the work brings in the income. And so it's not just, investing in something and getting rich and sitting on the couch. It's more like, and you wouldn't want that. And so also your career can be tied in with second house topics and themes. So you could be an investor, you could be an accountant, you could be somebody who works in finance in one way or another. You could be a banker of some kind. You could be, somebody who maybe, I don't know, works with something involving like assets or asset allocation. Like there's so many different things with the second house that could be involved, but your career and your money are very tied in, and you could even have second house themes that are involved in your actual career path and what it is that you do. You could be one of those business owners that teaches other business owners how to run a business and make lots of money. And that could work well for you too. You need to be seen as somebody who's an authority in your field. So it's not just about connecting to people who are in positions of authority and playing off of that energy. It's about building recognition, building authority, building a reputation for yourself. Money will come through that for you. And so I love this placement actually for the way things work in this day and age and finances. And so as long as the energy of your second house ruler is positively placed, nicely aspected, and a good sign, you are good to go. You are golden. Ruler of the second house in the 11th. This is another beautiful placement. Another really great one if you own a business, because sometimes people talk about the 11th house being tied in with money, and it is, especially if you're a business owner, because it's really the money that is earned from your business. So it's not necessarily your personal income, it's your business revenue. It's like the total sales revenue of your business. And if you don't own your own business, it's kind of more or less the revenue of your company. And so if your company's making a lot of money, maybe that trickles down to you. But this is more of a predominant energy if you're somebody who, again, owns a business, which you should if you have ruler of the second house in the 11th, because your earnings from your business are going to be quite nice. Also, investing in businesses and things like that can be really helpful for you. This is also an energy of giving back and doing things that are altruistic or humanitarian. And so even though you're giving money away in the 11th house to different causes, different groups, different organizations that you really want to enhance or back or be a part of, that's going to come back to you through social recognition and reward. And that's going to elevate you indirectly, a lot of times financially. This is a really great energy for working with groups of people, getting a collaborative effort involved around whatever movement you're trying to create, whatever thing you're trying to do. That collaborative effort when it comes to your finances is going to be helpful. This is also one of those energies where normally you don't want to mix like money and friends, and it is the second house ruler is going to be in square with your second house in this placement, so there is some complication there. But as long as the ruler is positively placed, you could get away with going into business with some friends, investing in some sort of like business with some friends, like opening a bar together, a restaurant or a store or a shop or something like that. Those things could actually work out for you more so than some of the other signs. Finally, ruler of the second house in the 12th house. This is probably the most difficult placement when it comes to finances. This is because the second house is the house of things that are kept secret and hidden. It's the house of loss and unraveling. It's the house of your own undoing. It's also a house that's very intangible. And when you have something like money and resources and possessions that are very tangible, and you put that energy in a house that is very intangible, it creates a little bit of trouble. It can make it so resources for you are kind of intangible. They're hard to come by. It's hard to kind of grasp onto it. However, there are ways to work with this energy, just as there are with any other energy. And so with the ruler of the second house in the 12th house, you have to earn your money, maybe in secret. Maybe you're doing something behind the scenes that other people don't necessarily know about. Keeping your finances and the way that you earn your money private can actually be energetically very fruitful for you. It can create more abundance. working in the fields of spirituality, working with something involving trance states or hypnosis even, or involving dreams, dream research, dream work can be very fruitful for you. This is also a house of deep imagination and creativity. If you do work that's very imaginative, if you do work that's very creative, if you do work that's intangible and you turn it into something tangible, that can be very abundant for you. And so all of these things are themes that you can bring into the mix. I will say that with the ruler of the second and the 12th, not only should you keep your kind of finances maybe to yourself or the way that you earn money to yourself, but if you are in a business, probably doing it on your own is a little bit better than doing it with groups of people. The other thing too, with ruler of the second house in the 12th, this is a really great energy for charity, for giving money to charity, especially even if you don't have a lot, just giving whatever you have or whatever you can afford energetically brings in abundance for you. So that's one of the kind of remedies for that. Also, starting a business or working for a nonprofit that does charitable work that's very compassionate, where you're giving to other people, that can be a really great way to work with the energy of the 12th house as well. And that can actually create more abundance for you too. And so, yeah, a lot of different things can come to play here. But yeah, not all is lost when the ruler of the second is in the 12th house. You just have to learn to work with the energy instead of working against it. It's also the house of the subconscious. It's the house of hospitals. So you could very literally work in a hospital. You could work in a rehabilitation center, a retreat center of some kind. You could open your own, any of those institutions. Maybe you could work for a prison. I don't recommend that, but that is something that would show up there, you know. All of those things could be possibilities for you as well. And so that is my overview of the second house energy for all the rising signs, the ruler of the second house in all 12 of the houses in the birth chart. I hope that you found this information helpful, useful, interesting in some way. Let me know in the comments section if you learned something or if any of this connected with you or resonated with you. Remember, again, this isn't the only thing you would look at for finances. We would be looking at so many other things in the birth chart, including planets in the second house, aspects to the second house and second house ruler. You'd be looking at the 8th, the 11th. You'd be looking at the lot of fortune and the houses derived from the lot of fortune, and just so many other things. And so again, if you want to really understand how to read the birth chart in all the ways, the Cosmic Academy of Astrology is open for summer enrollment until June 30th of 2023 for 20% off, and you get a whole bunch of bonuses. You're going to want to check that out. The link is down in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, like it, subscribe to my channel, and share this video with your friends if you feel like they could benefit from the insight that I just provided for you today. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.